Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am JM, and this is a show where we hang around and we talk about games, specifically role-playing games, but also sometimes card games, miniature games, board games. Good morning to everyone, to Padre, to Grom, to Civil Savage. Oh my God, it's good to see you. I hope everything is going well, and I hope you can join the Han Cluster game here soon. And last but definitely not least, good morning to Tink. So, we're going to talk about something controversial today because everyone in the comments from the last video were like, I hate classes. And I'm going to be like, but I love classes in Heroes Unlimited. And I think it solves some of the issues that we have with superhero games that we were talking about. Oh man, Grom, it is so good. We're about halfway through the second adventure in the Plot Point campaign. And it is wunderbar. I'm enjoying it. Good morning to John Doom. Good to see you. Or Mormung. Mormung, John Doom. I think that's going to be our new salutation. So, we're still talking about superhero games, and we're still going to be focused on kind of the pitfalls that we were talking about last time. And the pitfalls were really repetitive nature of adventures, balancing combat and characters, and creating characters that can be an issue in superhero games. So I've already done a review of Heroes Unlimited. I mean, Jim Steranko art on the cover, God, so beautiful. But this, for a short introduction, is Palladium Games Heroes Unlimited superhero game. It was designed, I want to say third, because it goes Mechanoid, Trilogy, Palladium Fantasy, and I think then the original Heroes Unlimited. This is before Rifts came out. They are probably most well known for Rifts. And it is a D20 based game. If you've played any D&D game, you're going to be very familiar with the combat system. Roll to hit. Higher you roll, better your hit is. Roll damage. Damage comes off hit points. Ta-da! That's the core of the combat system, save for the fact that it's a reactive system. So you can parry, you can dodge, you can roll, and you're trying to beat your opponent's target number that they set with their strike roll. Additionally, armor works kind of differently than it does in D&D. Armor's ablative. It absorbs damage as opposed to damaging you. On a complete side note, Grom and John, I'm right there with you, 100% all in day it comes out, and we're gonna have Tracy on behind the screen to talk about Han Cluster as we get closer to launch. So that'll be a really cool behind the screen episode that I get to do January, February before Han Cluster comes out. So the other thing that does, it uses a D100 system, a percentile system for the skills. And this is a class-based superhero game, which may seem strange because one of the things we talked about is that most superhero games are point buy. They're designed to let you build anything you want. And Heroes Unlimited, and I'm thinking maybe Aaron Acevedo's SP5E, Superpower 5E, is also a class-based system, but I haven't taken a look at that one, I will be honest. I think Heroes Unlimited is one of the only, but definitely the first, of the classed superhero games. And what do I mean by classes? We're not looking at things like fighter, ranger, wizard, that sort of thing. I mean, I guess wizard. But basically, they are power archetypes. So you have the alien, and the mutant, and physical training for your characters like, Batman. Special training for characters like your super sleuth or your ancient master. There are psionics. There are mutant animals. You can create your mutant animal and alter them about. Magic exists. Hardware exists. Bionics, robotics. All of these are the classes in Heroes Unlimited. But what's great about them is within each class, you can do whatever you want. I rolled up an alien last Saturday with my son Zane, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna play this alien warrior. That's kind of what I had in my head. And you get to roll randomly if you want for everything. And my alien was the last of its species, but was actually just sort of like a general technician on the planet and managed to hijack a ship to get here to Earth. Very little combat skills, but very technically proficient in things like science and piloting and communications. What I like about Heroes Unlimited is that it lets you pick the type, or completely, plinko machine, toss the dice in at the top and roll randomly for everything. Allows you to say, well, I really don't know what kind of superhero I want, but you know what? Being an experiment sounds cool. It would be cool to be somebody who was experimented on by some sort of agency and develop superpowers. And what it allows for players is it reduces that onboarding complexity that we talked about yesterday with superhero games. You don't have to go, I need to know how power modifiers work and how point spend works, and what's a good threshold for my attack bonus and my defense bonus and my damage reduction. How much dice do I want to be, putting into attack? You don't have to worry about any of that, because all of that is created in these discrete, prepackaged bundles. Yes, I saw it, John and Tink, and I was thinking the exact same thing. Down with the bourgeoisie, man. Long live proletariat, man. I don't know. Maybe. I think technically I would be considered bourgeoisie. So, does that mean when the alien goes against psionics is class warfare? It sort of does, Padre. This game allows you to do superhero class warfare. That one's not going to bite me in the butt, I don't think. So, you can take these archetype templates of different classes of characters in the superhero fiction and present them to your players and say, hey, either you can roll randomly or you can start here and kind of work your way through this. And it provides a framework. The other nice thing is that while there are slight variations, and if you know the Palladium system, you know what I'm talking about. Like, if you want to be a good combat character, you're like, well, I'm definitely going to take boxing and hand-to-hand martial arts, just going to give up the 2 to 4 skills to ensure that I'm really focused. I'm going to buy a bunch of physical skills to increase my attributes and my strength and my STC. You can do that, but for the most part, minor powers are generally within a little bit of degree of variance, balanced against other minor powers. Major powers are balanced within the some degrees of variance of other major powers. And it's very difficult. It's very easy to make the kind of character you want to play, but it's very difficult to make a unbalanced character or a character that is just bad at everything and destined to die. The other nice thing about the class-based system is that as you play, your character gets appreciably better. Your skills go up, your hit points go up, the effects of your powers go up. So for example, energy expulsion fire, which is one of the minor super abilities. It is, hey, I want to be able to shoot fire from my body. It's 2d6 of damage plus 1 per level of experience. So at 5th level, you're doing 6d6 damage, and you're feeling like you're doing more. Now, this, on the flip side, on the villain side, it provides the same ease for the GM, as opposed to having to build a villain from the ground up, like you would in Savage Worlds or Ascendant or Champions. Here you can pick a class, pick an experience level, and run through making your villain. So I think it provides some great onboarding and framework, and then hits that thing that I love where my character is getting better the longer I play it. And I should point out that Palladium Games' XP table is not combat focused. It never has been. If you go over to the Palladium Books channel and listen to the history of Palladium Books, you'll hear that very early on, Kevin was enthralled with the idea of role playing, not necessarily combat monstering. And so, here it is, page 27. The experience rewards are, all right, so if you kill or subdue enemy, you're getting between 200 and 300 experience points for that. But if you endanger your own life to help others, you're getting 300 experience points. If you do an actual self-sacrifice, that can be worth up to 700 experience points. Planning, even just the experience of sitting around and talking about what you want to do and putting the plan together nets you experience points. That's where the focus of the game is. However, there's going to be a but it does not have any of those sweet frameworks that Savage Worlds has to break up sort of the monotony of the rhythm of the role-playing game. In the same way that Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, even before 3E, was really focused on, you had non-weapon proficiency skills, and you had combat. And those were basically the two things. Anything else the GM had to adjudicate. If you wanted to do a skill challenge, you had to wait to 4th edition or come up with something on your own. If you wanted a puzzle, you had to make it or create it yourself. If you wanted chase rules, the GM was the one who adjudicated that. And while Heroes Unlimited has a robust character creation system and skill system and combat system, those are the three things that it has. And it really relies on the GM to adjudicate a lot more of the individual scenes. Now, we had somebody respond on the video, and I apologize, I was going to pull up the name beforehand, and I completely forgot, who said when building an encounter for a superhero game, they really don't look at it as a fight, they look at it as a puzzle. And I think that is a great way to view superhero encounter building. You want it to be a puzzle. You want it to have multiple moving pieces, right? Some of the best fantasy fights are not just against orcs, but, you know, orcs and a shaman and a warlord and maybe some, you know, goblins running around, where you have lots of different things going on. Add environmental effects. I think environmental effects are always a wonderful thing to include, but especially in a superhero game. You want to have things that your heroes can pick up and use to smack the villains around, or things for the villains to get smacked into. I know we talked about innocent bystanders as being a bug of a superhero genre in the first episode, thanks to somebody on Reddit who pointed that out. And I'm like, well, that automatically makes any fight that you have far more interesting than I'm fighting orcs in a cave. A building collapses, you know, a water line bursts, gas line bursts, someone gets injured and is like bleeding out, and you have to choose between saving the innocent shopkeeper or taking your shot at, you know, the Red Rage as they go running away. Like, which do you do? These are dramatic choices. And I think to say, oh, well, it's just boring, always having to be worried about innocent bystanders. Well, I mean, then why aren't you just, you know, fighting something in a gray waste space and just rolling dice to see whose character drops first? I think this is interesting and a great feature of superhero games. But if you view it as a puzzle with 3 to 5 moving pieces, some of those pieces are antagonists, some of those pieces are environmental, some of those pieces are a timer. Like, hey, if you don't get through this in 4 melee rounds, this thing goes off. And like, things escalate as you move through, or de-escalate, right? Sometimes we're always focused on making the fights more difficult for the players, that we we forget that, like, right, especially in the superhero genre, hey, maybe after 3 rounds a bunch of these things disappear, or they give up because really what the fight was a cover for a heist, and after 3 rounds the heist has been completed and the heroes didn't pick up on it. These are interesting choices to use in encounters with uh, superheroes. Well, and encounters in any game, sci-fi, Han Cluster to Greyhawk. Now, I will say one other thing: Palladium does include alignments. That was very Imperium of Man of you, Padre, to say. I can totally hear a commissar saying that in a murder investigation in Imperium Maledictum or Wrath and Glory. But I'll be honest, I've always enjoyed the Palladium alignment system because really it's more of a code. As Kevin wanted to be a comic book artist, is a comic book guy before he was a game developer. So his alignment system is less of the law chaos axis that we find in the Eternal Champion or in Dungeons and Dragons, and more of a comic book alignment system. So you have 2 good, 2 selfish, and 3 evil alignments. And these really do provide more role-playing cues, I think, than which side of a battle are you on, which is sort of the original origin of the alignment system in Dungeons and Dragons. Right? Principled characters are like your Captain America and your Superman. They are always going to do what's right. You could say that they are kind of lawful good, but they give you examples of what a principled character would and would not do. Scrupulous characters are good, but they're a little bit more willing to get their hands dirty. They're not quite the ends justify the means, but they do realize that sometimes in the pursuit of the greater good, you are going to be dealing with, here we go, page 20, things that you might have to, again, like I said, get your hands dirty. For example, so scrupulous characters value life and freedom above all else and despise those who would deprive them of others. This is the kind of hero that is more of a Clint Eastwood, Charles Bronson-esque character. Selfish alignments, you have unprincipled, which I would put maybe Han Solo in. Hey, he's really in it for himself, but honestly, when the chips are down, his heart of gold shines through. Whereas an anarchist character is not neutral. Kevin doesn't believe in neutral alignments, but he does believe in very selfish people and selfish alignments. And then evil, you have kind of miscreant, which is selfish evil, as opposed to unscrupulous, which is kind of selfish, or unprincipled, which is selfish good. You have diabolic, which is your megalomaniac, Jack the Ripper, Lex Luthor kind of character. And then you have an interesting one that I liked, which kind of feels like it's lawful evil. It's Aberrant. Aberrant is an evil character, but who has a strict code of honor that they will not violate. So in some cases, things like Doctor Doom, Grendel, Ra's al Ghul, those kind of characters. I mean, honestly, you could probably argue Rorschach is more aberrant, especially after the case that broke him, than he is unprincipled. Punisher could be considered aberrant. So just keep in mind that this game system was developed in the early 80s. So it has things that a lot of people would not associate with more contemporary role-playing games, like, again, classes, alignments, that sort of thing. It's a great game for running supers, and I am starting a new superhero game with my son using Heroes Unlimited, and I can't wait to get back into the Palladium system. It's like I said, this was my first role-playing game. It's kind of my first love in RPGs. It's interesting to me because I always go back to second edition Dungeons and Dragons. There is something about D&D that is like it's like an old significant other where one too many bottles of wine and you might reach out to them. So Dungeons and Dragons I always go back to. I love second edition, as can be seen by my shelves that you can't see just off screen. Second edition, including the Dragon magazines, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shelves of books. But this, the Palladium system, Heroes Unlimited, Rifts, Palladium Fantasy, this is the game I've run the longest. This was my introduction to role-playing games. This was where I cut my teeth as a GM. So a lot of people like to disparage the system, but honestly, I don't think it's clunky. I don't think it's outdated. I think what is going on is it is organized in a way that was fine for the time. It was the way role-playing games were organized in the 80s. I think a facelift and a new layout of the rulebook would go quite far to making this far more accessible, because the rules work great. D20 ascending AC, that was a Palladium thing long before it was a D&D thing. Spell points, which a lot of people are always trying to take the Vancian magic system out of D&D and replace it with spell points. It's the way it works in here. So you get all of the benefits of a class and level system for players who are coming out of Dungeons and Dragons, and all of the fun of a superhero game. Now, this game is well supported by Palladium books, so this is the core rulebook. This is everything you need to play, but you're still going to have to do a lot of legwork on your own as a GM, creating your own heroes and thugs. They have a GM's guide, Villains Unlimited, which obviously helps expand what you need for that. Sentry Station and Gramercy Island are like the city and the prison for kind of the world of Heroes Unlimited. You have Aliens Unlimited and an Aliens Unlimited Galaxy Guide for going beyond just planet Earth. They've got 3 Powers Unlimited, which just give you dozens more power sets to use with the game. And then they have something called Armageddon Unlimited, which is, there was a crossover campaign starting in Rifts and moving into Phase World and then ending up on Heroes Unlimited, where the demons and the devils, so what's called the Minion War in Rifts, what would be called the Blood War in Dungeons and Dragons, starts spilling out of Hell and Hades, or Dival and Hades, and out into the Megaverse. So it allows you to bring like a ton of the demons and devils out of Rifts and pull them into Heroes Unlimited. And I'm actually, that's next on my book to read, or bookshelf to read, so I'm looking forward to that. So yes, by the way, Grom, the Authority did something very much like this. Now, John, I'll be honest, I've made characters for Aberrant, and I've read the book, and I've even read the new book, the new version that they did when they re-released Trinity. But I've never played or run Aberrant. I know that's a game that you like quite a bit. Ooh. Roll. I can see that. I can see Bane being Aberrant. That's a really good good call. I'm catching up on Tom King's run on Batman that started in DC Rebirth, and I just finished I Am Bane, which is the second trade where Batman goes to Bane's Island to recover Psycho Pirate. And Bane, what a great villain that was introduced into DC Comics. So you're saying too many actions in the Rifts game. Or in Heroes Unlimited. So I'll be honest, I don't house rule a lot in Heroes Unlimited, but I have one house rule, and that's where actions that you take or reactions come off the end of your round, not at the front of the round. And yes, you can have characters that have anywhere between, 4 is kind of the average. but you can have people who have all the way up to 8 actions a round. And the thing to remember about Palladium rounds is they're not like Savage Worlds, and they're not like Dungeons and Dragons. They're 15-second rounds. So, right, it's really more like 3 rounds of combat every time you make your way all the way through combat. I have only read Roll of the Minion War. I've read Dival and Hades, and I've read Megaverse in Flames, and what is it? Heroes of Humanity? Yeah, so I haven't read Armageddon Unlimited, and I haven't read Dimensional Outbreak, so I'm really interested in kind of rereading all of them as I recollect these books and really seeing how the Minion War comes together. So that's it. That's our show for today. We'll be back on Tuesday where we're going to talk about Ascendant, a D100 superhero role-playing game that comes out of the tradition of Marvel Face Rip and DC Heroes. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is if you haven't tried it and you want to see a really cool way of interacting with environments, check out Marvel Rivals. It's free to play. I'm playing it right now. If you're a member of the Discord, I'm planning on making a voice chat just for Marvel Rivals if anyone else wants to join me. But their interactive maps are very interesting and spark a lot of ideas for me for making interactive environments for my players. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM. This has been Behind the Screen, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Until then, have a good one, everybody.